Our past informs the way that we perceive the world and the way that we experience our reality. And the problem is that most people believe that their past is fixed. But what if I told you that actually your past is malleable and it can be changed? What I think is really important for people to shift in perspective is understanding that the past that we live with is in fact actually a story. We're living with a narrative that we have allowed ourselves to believe from our childhood or from the past. And so it's this story that we're holding that is actually affecting how we move through life and how we perceive other people, other situations, other experiences, and affects us on a daily basis in our emotions and our response to situations. While we continue to allow ourselves to think that my past was fixed, what that creates is a lie that we believe in, that the pain of my past is also fixed and cannot be changed and is something I will always live with. What this delusional gaslighting thinking and thought process actually does is perpetuates the fear and the pain that we have always been carrying through this story, through this narrative. And we think of it as making up the identity of who we are. But the truth is, it has never been a part of you. It's just something that we hadn't felt able to, or hadn't felt it was possible for us to look deeply at, move closer in towards it, scrutinize it, and actually realize that it can be changed. It can be transmuted. Let's say, for example, if you're living with an experience of some form of abuse in your past, which, let's be honest, most people have experienced that in some form, whether it's some form of physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, spiritual. It would be easy for us to continue living life and thinking that experience that I had at that time of my life was awful and painful, and the pain of that will always be with me. While we continue to allow ourselves to be in resonance and in alignment with that distortion, that's how we gaslight ourselves, then the pain of the experience of the story is being held within our field and is being carried with us through life. Instead, when you understand, okay, this is a story that I'm holding onto, what this liberates you into being able to do is dive headfirst into the story, into the experience, and actually transmute the pain load that it has been holding. I've talked about before in other videos that the pain of the past is this pain burden of unexpressed emotions that we were not able to fully release at the time of the experience. So it's like this residual weight, this residual baggage of pain that is still waiting to be released. It's still waiting to be purged out of us. If we can find the strength and the determination, the grit to go back to the past, back to the painful memories, and allow ourselves to feel that emotion fully and release it, then something truly magical happens. It's almost like, imagine that pain has been being held like water behind a dam, and the pressure had been building up, building up. Once you allow that water to run, and drain it from the dam by feeling it, that water flows out and through you as energy, then what you find is you have this magical experience of shifting from the discomfort of the pain and the heartbreak and the shame into being left with a feeling of love and joy and bliss. And it's as though the space that the pain had been holding up inside of your energy field actually is freed up, and instead it creates the opportunity for the loving vibration and the loving energy of the divine to instead take up this space in your field. The divine can move into your field once you have cleared out and released that blockage of the pain that you didn't realize you had been holding. Think about it this way. Imagine your energy as being like a glass of water or a jug of water. All of the distortions and the pain burdens that we hold onto are like rocks or pebbles being dropped into that water. Now, the volume of clear, pure water that the glass or the jug can hold will be less because of the rocks that are in there taking up the space. So, what I'm saying is, we have to cleanse and purify and release the distorted energy, the toxic energy, the diseased energy from our past, from the story that we had been continuing to attach to, in order to allow increasing levels of the love and the joy and the bliss and all the beautiful things from the divine to instead come and enter into our field. This is honestly truly magical when you start experiencing this for the first time. It almost creates, like, I want to say, like a natural high effect, because you're like, wow, like I've purged this energy out of me, and now this expansive, like nourishing, loving, connected energy is now mine, and it's mine, and it's here to stay. It stays with you, it doesn't leave. But first of all, we have to be willing to go headfirst into the places that are the most painful, the darkest places within ourselves that we have tried to run away from, that we have had the most resistance to. Those are the places within your energy field that are the greatest opportunities, the greatest gift for healing and releasing yourself from the burden that you have been carrying. Releasing that burden allows you to alter and rewrite the story that you had been living with. What happens is you can actually see past events that were traumatic and were painful, and you can see them from the perspective of love. It may be that having come into complete acceptance of what occurred, you can instead see yourself with greater compassion. You can see the perspective of the other person in the situation from a place of greater compassion. And this radical acceptance and this unconditional love of what happened melts away the resistance in you and the hatred or the shame that you didn't know you had been holding, that you didn't know you had been walking through life carrying this shame burden, carrying this hatred for what had happened in your past. And there's always a lie at the root of these distortions, which I spoke yesterday in a video talking about how we have to be willing to look inside of ourselves at the places that we are lying to ourselves, the places that we are living in our own narcissistic distortions that are causing our pain, that are causing our suffering. What you will find is that in the root of these past traumas and the root of these past experiences are lies that you have been allowing yourself to believe. For example, if there's a situation that where you had received some kind of abusive behavior from someone in the past, when you boil it down and when you can distill it down to its real core essence of the pain that is in that memory and that story, what you will likely find is the evidence of a part of you that had believed a lie such as, this happened to me because there's something wrong with me, or this person treated me this way because they don't love me, or I deserve this because I'm unworthy, I'm broken. There will be a lie like these or something similar that is at the very root of that pain, of that splinter in your side that you had been living in agreement with. And once you can go into the memory, into the pain, see the lie for what it is, see through it, and instead transmute that into truth of understanding, ah, I am I am so worthy, I am so loved. This experience that I had was not truly my fault. The experience that I had was not caused by me, or for me to be blaming myself as being unworthy or unloved or whatever the lie may be. Once you can go in there and face up to the lie and see it for what it is, making it conscious. This is where we're dealing with the lower dimensions of consciousness. We're bringing up things from, like dredging it from the sea floor up into the light, up into the conscious awareness, from your subconscious, from your unconscious. These are the lower dimensions of your awareness. Then you can instead replace this belief, this lie, and replace this memory with something that is just a flow of love and peace and forgiveness and acceptance, which this new energy is then what you will bring with you as you continue moving through life. It will change the way that you are interpreting reality. It will change the way that you are interpreting experiences or conversations with other people. Your reality, in many ways, is being informed by the energy and the beliefs that you are holding. So the very future that you experience will be altered, and also the timelines into the future paths of experiences that you are resonating with and magnetizing towards you will be altered. This is the magic that is available to us all. This is the alchemy of transmuting the pain of your past and rewriting the story that you had been believing in, that you had been an ally towards. We become an ally to perpetuating our own shame narrative. This is the integration of the fracturing of our energy where we have allowed ourselves to be separated between the third dimensional conscious aspect of our identity and the lower, darker, more painful dimensions of our awareness. This is the task of gathering up the broken pieces and repairing and fixing our energy back into wholeness. We integrate the broken pieces and the broken shards back into ourselves through love. If we distance ourselves from them and resist them and reject them, then our pain will continue, and the trauma that we are feeling, whether consciously or unconsciously, will be carried with us and perpetuated with us into our future. When you can understand this mechanism and this process and experience it for yourself, what you will also realize is that you can see this happening and observe this in a new light in other people. And so it gives you this ability to have, in some ways, like an X-ray vision. You see through the surface level of other people and their behavior, the words they say or the actions they take, the choices they make. And you can see through what looks like on the surface a harmful or judgmental or unkind decision that was creating suffering. And instead, you can start to see and interpret the wound within them, the lie that they are living in agreement with, and therefore this distortion, this narcissistic distortion, delusion that they have been adopting, which is causing them to act out of alignment with their true self. The true self being the divine self, the loving, pure, innocent self. So by going on this journey within yourself, it will alter how you perceive and understand the decisions and the actions of everybody else as well. It allows you to open up to greater depths of compassion, because when you know, oh, there are wounds in myself that I can see I had been resisting for so long, you can then have compassion for other people, understanding that when they are acting in a way that seems unkind or harmful or irrational, you can understand and feel that, oh, this person is on their own learning journey of learning to love and learning to find truth and learning to heal those distortions within themselves. It is this compassion for each other. Oh, there's a ladybug on me. Oh, cute. It is this compassion for each other that is going to actually bring about palpable change in our reality. It allows you to adopt a sense of forgiveness for others, a forgiveness for the harm that they may be creating outside of their conscious awareness. And when you can live in this state of unconditional love and forgiveness of others, and let me just point out, I'm not saying unconditional acceptance of anything or anyone, or any act or any words, but staying in the state of unconditional love. You are essentially adopting the eyes of the Christ. This is the divine perspective of knowing that everything that occurs in this reality is love or learning to love, and that is all. The true nature of the divine is unconditional love. And while we on this human level can shift from a state of judgment to a state of forgiveness, there's an important point I want to make here about the fact that the divine, in truth, cannot forgive anyone. What do I mean by that? The divine cannot forgive you for anything because the divine cannot adopt a state of unforgiveness. It is only here in this reality where we have this subjective experience of the illusion that we can be in judgment, or we can be critical of others. And we can shift between being in judgment and dismissing someone or being in the state of unconditional love for them. But that is the only state that the divine can ever hold. From the divine perspective, we are all beings of perfect love, of perfect innocence, who are playing out a learning experience in the illusion of time and space. So the more that we can adopt and align ourselves with this state of forgiveness for each other and the state of unconditional love, then the more we are embodying our true nature, our divine nature, and seeing life and seeing each other through the eyes of the Christ. This is what will bring about true change in the world. And there's almost like a paradox here to understand between sometimes our attempts at creating positive change are actually increasing the suffering. Sometimes our actions that are done with the best of intentions are actually creating more harm. What do I mean by this? If there is someone who is behaving in a way that is creating harm or suffering, and we are observing that individual, it would be easy to think that the best thing to do is to take a stance of judgment and scold that person and call them out for doing the wrong thing. And what this does is it cuts off that flow of loving acceptance to them. And what I was just thinking was, in some ways, it's like we're cutting off the flow of love and acceptance to a part of ourselves, where each person is basically reflecting back and mirroring back to us an aspect of who we are, an aspect of the one divine mind. So if there's this individual who is creating suffering and we move into the state of criticism and denial of love or denial of acceptance, when you understand that that person is acting from a shame wound, that person is acting out from a narcissistic delusion, which is creating the circumstances where it's the rational choice for them to do something harmful, what is actually the root cause of the harm or the suffering that they're creating is the shame wound within them. That is what it all boils down to, the root of that problem. And the criticism or the shaming of that person then can be understood as actually perpetuating and increasing the source of the problem. Because if we shame that individual, what we're doing is telling them and signaling to them that the shame that they are carrying and in possession of is justified and it is real and they are unworthy and they are broken or faulty and they're not accepted and they're not welcome here. Paradoxically, what would actually bring about change in that individual is if we can signal to them that they are still loved unconditionally, even when they are acting in ways that may be harmful. And again, let me point out, I'm not saying that it is a total unconditional acceptance of people's behavior, but there are ways that we can protect boundaries and highlight wrongdoings while still honoring and respecting the integrity of that individual. And that is a very important nuance between, are we shaming someone who is creating harm from their own shame wound and expecting that to make things better? What we have to realize is we are adding fuel to that fire. Shaming that shame wound only makes that fire bigger, makes the pain, makes the destruction, the suffering grow. Instead, if we can see that this person is acting in this way because of a distortion, because of a lie that they are in agreement with from their past, then we can have compassion. Then we can move into forgiveness. Then we can ask for the divine inspiration to say, how do we handle this situation? How do we resolve this in a way that doesn't alienate people further? Because it's that sense of alienation from love and from others that is actually creating and multiplying the harm and the suffering that we see now all around us. It's quite an intense message, so well done if you've made it this far. Hopefully this is an inspiring message. And the key advice that I would give is you have to go inside first before we can really change how we perceive and view others or perceive and understand the external reality. We have to be able to do the internal work in ourselves first. That will be the key that unlocks the door to how we treat each other. Once we have been able to bring that loving forgiveness internally into ourselves and all of those parts of ourselves in the past that we had been allowing to exist in pain. That would be my advice. Go inside, do the inner work, and then you can embody the change that you want to see in the world. Be the beacon of hope for other people to understand that we all have our own darkness, we all have our own distortions. And there's something beautiful about being able to see and honor each of ourselves in that journey and in that process, and supporting each other, loving each other along the way.